Hello everyone, this is Floxcat and welcome to a very interesting new series I decided to start on my channel. And this is kind of experimental, it's not going to be like boom 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 kind of thing. It's just something that I want to do personally, hence why I will be making a playlist of this soon after its premiere and blah blah blah. And this one's actually pretty interesting because it's one that I kind of decided to do on my own, mostly because, to be perfectly honest, since how it's recently became so popular, and since actually I have as a time of recording, and technically as a time of, right now, before the next book, I have literally every single book in Wimpy Kid. So I decided, you know what, since I see other people doing a review of it, I decided to do my own homemade version of doing a review of Wimpy Kid book. And if people are getting popular with this thing, so what? Let's get this popular, I guess. I don't know. It's very interesting to say the least. And I do want to kind of do a talk about with this series, talk about it. Like, seriously, I'm not making this up. I have literally every book of the series. So I decided to go ahead and do a nostalgic trip towards the memory lane and read just how interesting this series is. Now, for those who are super brand new, which I highly doubt it, but due to how it's no longer in the minds of many, especially with the upcoming brand new generation, you may or may not heard of what Wimpy Kid is, but I highly doubt it because I bet a lot of people heard about this series. For those who do not know, the series is written by a guy named Jeff Kennedy, and since then he has written up to, I don't know, I have to look at the latest book, but he wrote up a lot of books, to say the least, and is a continuing story about a kid named Greg Heffley who goes through his years in middle school years. And there's a couple of things about the Wimpy Kid series that has been talked about, and one of the biggest is being how bad the protagonist is. I gotta be honest with you. When I was young and reading Wimpy Kids books, I really didn't mind reading what I was reading that because I thought they were pretty good. But now being more mature and smart, I got a level of view. This is coming from a guy who does believe about the whole Greg. Well, I wouldn't say Greg is a sociopath, but Greg had some issues, to say the least. And looking back at it, I'm coming from a standpoint, and I'm going to try to compare the book on how the book works in modern life and how the character is. It kind of explains the big deals with each of the books. So with that being out of the way, let's talk about what's about the first book in the series, the thing that started it all, and even points that out because it has over 200 million sold, because heck it should, because it's actually pretty good. I still think it's a great series. It's kind of a very interesting thing. So the main plot of Wimpy Kid is basically it talks about the whole school life of Greg Heffley. This is literally before the series started literally adding more accuracy with its timeline, to say the least, because in the first book, it literally gets a whole year of school, meaning that Greg doesn't write into this unless in a week or so. But over time, it starts actually being more and more, especially in the second book, it starts being more and more accurate to it, writing about these school days and all that, which is pretty good, to say the least. But this just gives us an idea and general thought of who Greg Heffley is. To be perfectly honest, so far in the series, especially since I'm now reading the series back and forth again, Greg is a dick. He is a big fat fucking ass dick, to say the least. And I say that saying because on one hand, he seems to be a guy who knows what he's trying to do, he's trying to be good, but on the other hand, he's just a big fat douche. There's so many moments in this book that showcased it. And later on in the series, which I already know. I mean, at this point, we all know that. He's not very much a protagonistic force, he's more of an antagonistic force. And of course, in this book, we get to see how things go out. We also see how interesting his family life is. Though, in the next book, it does deeply go down that road. But again, I have to reread that for a while. But it kind of just shows also the stemming problems in some cases. Like in the literally beginning of the book, it talks about how his family life is kind of like weird, as his little brother Manny is literally the prince of the house. He doesn't get in trouble, and things are just causing very much bleh. Although the good news is, I can guaranteedly say that they do later on change it in some way, and Roderick is pretty much the only one that's okay, though he is kind of angsty teen as you expect. I mean, fuck's sake, this book came out in what, 2010? I could be wrong with that date, but still, it's pretty old, so what do you expect? Though it has gotten more moderate over the years it's been written. But, of course, the main focus of this book is just giving us a general idea of who Greg is. There's multiple moments where Greg is being a little bit of a douchebag, where in one moment he beams a apple towards a kid, even though admittedly I think the kid kind of somewhat didn't deserve it. I mean, I don't know. I do know in the book, and you probably know I'm referring to Patty. I do know in the book later on, Patty does get more attentions, and I know in the movie she is kind of more meh. And I do have the first movie, of course, but really that still doesn't give an excuse of actually beaming an apple in her fucking face. And it's kind of interesting because I have watched the movie multiple times and even remember more of the movie than the book, even though yes, I know the book is different. There's literally a moment where Greg is literally chasing kindergarten students with a worm on a stick, which in the movie they changed it, of course, to be much more better with understandable audience. And he pretty much doesn't see Riley as good friends. He sees him as dead weight. Towards the end, he does make up to his relationship with Riley. And it's kind of weird because, for those who don't know, even though it's forgettable because later on in the series they do get more plot point, obviously the first book doesn't have a full-fledged, it's an introduction. But the main plot of the book is, well, other than I explained it being his days in middle school, the main theming is that on Halloween they messed up by literally causing problems for a group of the group of teenagers actually caused them problems, and he said something, they chased after him. Not a surprise, especially with modern day. And of course, later on they forget about it, and then later on, Greg and Riley start having these bad moments in fighting where Greg broke his arm and doesn't feel remorse, which is stupid. Then they have this comic thing, which later on helps build up the climax, being that Greg doesn't like Riley's love for Zooey Mama, which admittedly he had a point that they both made it, but the way he was going at it, it was definitely weird. And I guess the movie did it much more better with that thing. And then later on, he starts, having some issues where there's a snowball, and he was questioning why Riley was mad at him, even though he's the one who's caused that chain reaction, if you know what I'm saying. And then finally, one of the last straws is, and the major point that led up to the climax is, he literally lied. Remember when I mentioned those kindergarten? He literally lied saying he was Riley, and then, made Riley get thrown under the bus until an anonymous source reconfirmed it was Greg. And it's actually interesting because Greg think it was Riley, but it could be anyone. And then at the end of the book, spoilers, even though it's not that spoiled because everyone now remembers what they did, freaking Greg and Riley was supposed to have a fight, even though they suck at it, which, to be fair, made sense at the time. And then all of a sudden, the teenager came out, and they forced Riley to eat the eat the blah, the keys, which is disgusting without the whole context of why the keys stuck and bullshit. And then pretty much Greg confesses later on next day that he or took the hit for Riley on that thing, and then to make up for what they did and da da da. Like, that ending doesn't work in some ways. I mean, I'm not saying that the book series have misled stuff, because there are few books in the series that has great messaging. I mean, there's actually one in particular that I think had a great message, even though it was going a little too far with the message. And to be honest, the first book, I still love it. I still love the series, of course. Hell, why do you think I have all the books at this point? But when you're looking back at it, you kind of see all the things that, yeah, freaking Greg is a dick. Like, Gregory is a big fat dick. Like, and I know what you're going to say, and I do agree. Greg is not really that bad. He does have some good strive. Heck, he did came clean to Rowley, even though what he should have done is he should have told the truth to the right people, being telling the freaking the police officer, not the police, or whoever, the one who, the chief of the whole, those guards. I actually have to look at this, but you know what I'm talking about when I say that. The patrol, right? Mr. Winkes. Some of these names are weird, by the way. Safety patrol. By the way, you get what I'm saying. But, he's still trying to tell Riley his side of the story, even though he later on started saying that maybe the lesson for Riley would be to never be careful who you give your jacket to, which is a stupid lesson, because that's not what happened. The lesson is you shouldn't be doing shit in the first place with kindergarten kids with a fucking worm, and no sexual. Oh man, that is a sexual innuendo. Even though it's also true if you use a sexual innuendo, if you know what I mean. But the point is, oh god, that's gonna get. Hey, at least it's helping making sure this video is not freaking childproof, because that's the last thing I need, is YouTube mistaking this video is for actual children, which is probably going to be in the cake because of how this is going to be freaking Wimpy Kid, which is not. I'm saying effing fucking curse words here, motherfucker. Don't be. At least they're more honest with Pokemon than Pokemon X with books. Sorry, I had to do that little rant. I'm just making sure. But my point is, I do agree. Looking at the book, I kind of see why people still think Greg. And I don't think so later on in the series, because I did look at the latest book. I haven't read it, but I did read bits and pieces of what happened. And it doesn't seem that bad. But, Greg is very young. He's still and this is kind of his first year of middle school, apparently. And I do like how the book tries to point out how middle school is definitely a very a very transfer stage. It's literally you guys going through this new thing where if you don't mess up, you're literally, there's moments, puberty and blah, 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 even though later on books talk about that. And it's very interesting to say the least, because Greg is literally in that mind state of what happened. But the way he does it is, he comes out, like I said, he's not a sociopath or really a bad guy. But he does come out like a douche with a dick. And that's how, that's how most of the series is. As many people could point out, he has these over-exaggerated, memories and stuff. He's like thinking, or, in fantasies of him being popular, which was also the whole point of the book. He wanted to get popular in multiple ways. And of course, he wanted to, later on get in the book. He didn't care. He wanted to get into comics. He was upset over the changes, even though I will admit the teacher should have told him a little bit more in detail. about the kids, but to be fair, he kind of deserved it since the original comic of that thing he was trying to do, which was get into comics for the school paper. He pretty much, let's just say, there's certain things in this book kind of outdated, globally speaking, and the best way to say this, and side note is just being true, he was trying to make a moron character who, let's just say, doesn't have very confidence is the best way I can put it, if you know what I mean. I know that's sloppy, but that's the best way I can put it in the nicest tone. And there's things he does, and it also kind of shows, like, again, this book also hints how interesting his family life is as well. Because if you read the books later on in the series, you start getting hit to bits of how his family life is kind of like it's not like a dysfunctional family, but with the terms like in the beginning of the book, which I'm surprised people didn't catch this at all. But in the beginning of the book, he talks about his father Frank, and whenever is a good time to mess up is when he's holding like a soft object like this, you know. And yeah, I just did that because he confirms that whenever his father gets mad at him, he'll just throw something at him. Now, of course, they probably later on removed that whole ideal later on the series because they probably don't want to show like child abuse, but it just shows how interesting his way has been. And as for his mother, I don't think this is the book where his mother kind of gets a little bit antsy, but it kind of shows case how he's trying to be a mother figure. And I don't think the mother is that bad, but a lot of people call her a Karen. We'll have to see. It's been a while since I read the book. I know his father gets way more. I think his father is way more weird and way more crazy. But as for his mom, I don't know. But we'll see that later. And of course, as confirmance with the character Raleigh is very interesting to say the least. Raleigh is kind of a good kid. He doesn't want to get in trouble and stuff. And Greg is just forcing him all over with the whole get him to the bad zone area. Even though really that happens more in the movie than the book, but there's moments where Riley's trying to be nice, and there's moments where Greg literally tried to block him so he get his way. He's very manipulated in this book, to be honest. Like I said, there's nothing much I can say about the book. Like there are moments that make you question if Greg is literally insane, and other moments where you're like, he's probably not that bad, although he's not doing the correct way to do things. And that's kind of the whole gist. And I know this review is a little bit sloppy because, hey, to be fair, get ready because there's probably going to be more sloppy reviews, to say the least. But my excuse is literally this first book had a lot of story depth, had very interesting things, very good start, but like I said, the second book and later on down the series, it does get plot heavy. And majorly, I think it starts truly getting plot heavy in the fifth book, because then we start getting into more details on what's going on. But at that point, there's nothing much I can say. Still pretty good, and like I said, I will be doing books. I will be literally reading the entirety of that Wimpy Kid, of course. But since I also have other books as well, if you guys want me to do a review on other books, like I'll probably even try to show you my book collection. But if you guys want to have me do a review of other books, if you want me to, I could. Note, it has to be in my collection, and B, it has to be something like similar to Diary of a Kid, or like a comic book, or a manga, like something that could be more easier for me to read, because and don't worry, I'm not gonna read kids book. I also got like manga in my freaking thing, so yeah. But anyways, this has been Floxcat. I hope you like this brand new series I'm starting. I'm hoping this series goes okay and well. But yeah, this is Floxcat. I'm definitely snapping out of here. Bye bye.